Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Coleslaw's Corner, Science in Drag. I'm James Wetzel, the producer of adult programs at the Museum of Science, Boston, and I'm so thrilled to introduce a brand new episode as part of this digital collaboration with our friend Coleslaw. While we can't all be together for a live show in the planetarium from Coleslaw and friends, we thought it would be great to continue this work and to sit Coleslaw down with different experts or researchers and educators from the Museum of Science to explore different STEM-related issues and topics and professions through the fabulous perspective of Coleslaw. And tonight we have a fantastic episode. We were able to sit Coleslaw down in conversation with members from the Live Animal Care Center, and Coleslaw even got to meet a few of the animals who call the museum home, so you're in for a treat. And this evening is a part of our current virtual fall season of adult programming. We have a fantastic lineup that's going to take us through the end of the year, so you can check that full schedule out by going to mos.org/adults, register for all of your tickets, and make sure you sign up for that email address so you can stay up to date on everything happening here at the Museum of Science for adults. I need to thank our friends from the Lowell Institute for their continued support of the adult programming here at the Museum of Science. Without them, we would not be here tonight, this event would not be happening, and it would not be free. So please join me in giving a huge virtual round of applause and thanks to the Lowell Institute. And finally, after the show tonight, I ask you to go to donate.mos.org/mosathome and consider making a gift to allow us to keep bringing free virtual STEM experiences into your homes, just like tonight's. Once again, that's donate.mos.org/mosathome. But now it's my privilege to turn it over to my dear friend. Take it away, Coleslaw.
Hello, my friends, gorgeous humans all across the world. My name is Coleslaw. Welcome to Coleslaw's Corner, Science in Drag. I am so happy that you've joined us for this wonderful event. The staff at the museum and I were under the impression that everyone kind of needs a pick-me-up at this point in the world. 2020 has been such a drag, to say the least. And we wanted to give you something that would hopefully make you smile. And guess what that something is? Animals! Everyone loves animals. Oh yeah. Before we dive into this interview, I wanted to share with you some of my research that I did on the history of animals in captivity in the world. The term that people generally use to describe a place where animals are held in captivity is zoo, Z-O-O. I used to go to the zoo all the time as a child. Oh, so many wonderful memories. Thanks for that, Mom and Dad. There are over 10,000 zoos in the world. In the US alone, there's over 2,400 zoos spanning multiple cities and landscapes. While people have held animals in captivity for thousands of years, these collections did not resemble the modern zoo that we know. The first zoos were private collections that the wealthy used to flex their power. These collections were called menageries. Wall carvings found in Egypt and Mesopotamia are evidence that rulers and aristocrats created menageries as early as 2500 BCE. Holy heck! Zoos also existed in later civilizations such as China, Greece, and Rome. The Aztec Emperor Montezuma II maintained one of the earliest animal collections in the Western Hemisphere, but it was destroyed in the Spanish conquest in 1520. The model of the modern public zoo became popular in the 18th century. During this time, people wanted to start studying animals for scientific reasons, anatomy, and animal behavior. To do this, the scientists had to have the zookeepers put the animals in what resembled their natural habitat. The first modern zoo was built in 1793 in Paris. And get this, the facility is still a functioning zoo to this day. these early modern zoos were actually more like museums than what we think about as animals in their natural habitat. The animals were kept in very small spaces, and they would fit as many as they possibly could into the space. Now, in modern times, zoos are regulated by the government and inspected regularly because they want to make sure the animals are doing okay. Zoos have been focusing on the importance of animal conservation and humane animal treatment within the past few decades. Still, some critics say it's cruel to keep animals in captivity. The argument is that keeping animals in captivity makes them lose their natural instincts so that they can't survive in the wild. The opposing end of the argument and supporters of zoos say that they play an important role in protecting endangered species. Captive breeding of endangered species makes zoos valuable places for animal survival. For example, the black, soft-shelled turtle, native to India and Bangladesh, are extinct in the wild. However, they have survived in several zoos across the world with the help of biologists. The goal of many captive breeding programs in zoos is the reintroduction of animals in the wild. For example, the California condor, which is a large bird native to the west coast of the United States, was reintroduced into wildlife because of captive breeding in zoos. And now there's several breeding pairs of the condor in the wild. Then there's another argument for captive breeding that says, even if you breed new animals and set them back out into the wild, it's not really going to help, because the reason that animals go extinct generally is because of a loss of habitat. They don't have anywhere to live. Now, there are organizations such as the associations of zoo and aquariums, and I think that it's important for you all to know that the Museum of Science Boston's Live Animal Care Center is an AZA accredited institution. That means that we meet the high standards that the AZA upholds. Now, the Museum of Science is not a zoo, but I wanted to share that information about the history of zoos. I just thought it was fascinating, frankly, as someone who cares about animal rights. Yes, the Museum of Boston has a live animal center, the Live Animal Care Center if you're nasty. And listen, I just met some of these caretakers and they are so fantastic. I can't wait. I'm about to be interviewing Liz Logan, the assistant curator at the Live Animal Care Center at the Museum of Science Boston, and I'm so friggin' excited to meet these animals as well as Liz Logan. Oh my goodness, let's go learn about animals. Hi, Coleslaw's Corner is here, live from the Museum of Science Boston with Liz Logan, the assistant curator of the Live Animal Care Center. Liz!
Hi.
What a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine.
I can't believe that we're almost standing right next to each other.
Almost.
Yeah, it's almost like I can see you. Hello. So Liz, can you explain to me what your role is here at the Museum of Science Boston?
Of course. I'm the assistant curator of the Live Animal Care Center. So basically what that entails is day-to-day care of all the animals in our collection. Sort of coordinate the feeding, watering, cleaning cages, keeping track of the other keepers, helping them out with their routines, training educators on animals. So people have to train if they want to use animals for programs. So I help out a lot with that. And that's pretty much it, I would say.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It definitely is a lot of work, but
and a lot of coordinating.
Definitely a lot of coordinating, but it is fun work for the most part.
Well, is there a favorite part of your daily routine at your job that you look forward to?
I really like doing animal enrichment. So this is kind of what you do to make an animal that's kept in captivity in a zoo type setting, keep them similar to how they would be in the wild. So you're finding things for them to do, things for them to solve, just kind of stuff to fill their day to keep them from getting bored. So it can be challenging to come up with different ideas of things to give to animals, but it is pretty fun and often rewarding when it works out and you can tell the animal enjoys something.
What is a day in the life like for the assistant curator for the live animals?
Well, working with animals, you can never have quite a typical day because animals always do what they want when they want to do it. But to give you a rough idea of what I guess a normal day would look like, I'll give you an example of today. So I came in the morning. I have 2 other keepers in. We sort of divided and figured out who was doing what routine. So then I went through, I fed all the mammals, changed water, kind of spot cleaned nasty stuff out of their cages. Then I prepared animal diets so that we have them for later on for the afternoon feedings. Then I did a few other cage cleans, and then I came up here and did an interview. So that's pretty similar to a lot of stuff that I do most days. Except for the interview, obviously. But we do live presentations. I train educators on animals if they need something, have something they want to work with. So that's kind of a typical day.
Wow. I mean, seriously, I'm exhausted just listening to that. Holy heck, that's a lot of work. How did you come to work at this museum?
I actually started as an intern years ago. When I was in college, I was pre-vet because I thought if you liked animals, you became a vet. So I just looked for places in the Boston area that had internships working with animals, and I came across the museum and didn't even know at the time they had animals here. So I started as an intern and kind of worked my way up over the years. Just kind of got my foot in the door and never left.
I mean, I don't blame you. It sounds like you got it made for someone that loves animals. I mean,
yeah.
How many animals are here in this museum?
In the Live Animal Care Center, we have about 120 individual animals, and that's about 50 different species. But then over in the Butterfly Garden, they have even more. If you count all the individual leafcutter ants, honeybees, they probably have thousands of animals, representing about 26 to 30 species. So lots of animals here at the museum.
Wow, I don't know about you guys at home, but I'm about to go visit this museum. So Liz, have you always been fascinated by animals?
I honestly have. It's my first memories are just loving animals, always watching nature programs, having a few pets growing up. I always knew I would work with animals.
Yeah, you know, I share that curiosity because when I was a child, I was just fascinated by insects and the pets, dogs and cats. We used to catch grasshoppers and fireflies in the backyard. What's your favorite part of your role here at the museum?
I would say just getting to work with so many different kinds of animals. A lot of people in zoos are specialists, so they might be, a primate keeper. I get to work with reptiles, birds, mammals, so I kind of get to do a little bit of everything, so I really enjoy that.
Which species do you prefer?
It's hard to pick one absolute favorite animal. We have a barn owl here at the museum that I'm really bonded with. We've had her here since she was about 4 weeks old, and she has trained for flight programs.
Aww.
So I really like her. We also have an eastern gray squirrel that was orphaned as a baby, and I actually hand raised her, so I'm pretty bonded with her. And then I am a big reptile fan. So I like most of the snakes. We have an alligator. He's really fun to work with. So I don't know. I guess I didn't answer your question. I kind of like everything.
No, I love that. It's the same thing as when people ask me what my favorite song is. I'm like, are you kidding me? Wait, also you have an alligator here? How have I never seen that?
We do. Again, most of the animals in the Live Animal Care Center are behind the scenes, so they will come out and do presentations. But yeah, he's, I guess what you'd say, a small alligator. He's probably about 5 years old. So he's relatively small.
Are you afraid of any of the animals that you take care of?
I honestly am not. I'm not even just trying to sound tough saying that. I've never really been afraid of anything. And then working closely with, or any animals, I should say. Let me correct that. Not afraid of any animals. I never have been. Like I said, I used to go looking for bugs and insects. I've definitely gotten more comfortable with things like alligators and snakes. But no, I honestly am not afraid of any of the animals that we have here.
I mean, I would hope not. That means you have the equal love and admiration for every creature that you take care of.
Definitely.
You mentioned that there's training and enrichment programs here at the museum. Can you elaborate on that?
Of course. So I guess training, there's two different aspects of it. One is training animals for specific behaviors. To give you an example, that barn owl, I know I keep coming back to her.
What's her name?
Her name is Poe.
Aw.
I'm training her right now to present her feet. She actually has some sores on the bottom of her feet, so we're training her to put her foot up on the cage so we can apply ointment. It's a lot less stressful for animals if you can train them to do behaviors like that. So that's an example of training an animal. We also train educators so they become comfortable handling an animal and working with them for a presentation.
I'm trying to imagine training this owl to raise her leg. What is that process like?
It has been very difficult. She is pretty attached to me. Like I said, I've known her since she was 4 weeks old. But it's hard to get an animal to do what you want them to do. It's kind of like a game of hot and cold. Sometimes you just have to capture. They accidentally do something that you did want, and you just have to reward at the right time and try to get them to understand that that's what you're asking for. So it has been a challenge, but a good challenge.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That sounds like some clips you should put on the museum YouTube. So Liz, do you have any memorable or unusual stories or memories about anything that happened with the animals?
One of my favorite funny stories is I came in early one morning. I was the first one to report. And there was a note on the door of the Live Animal Care Center from security, because they are here all night. And the note was typed up and it said, "Caution, there are 2 loose porcupines in the Live Animal Center." So someone missed a latch the night before, something happened, and the porcupines were both free roaming the Live Animal Care Center. And that was my first task of the day, was to collect and find them and put them away.
Oh, they're so cute.
They are really cute.
Do you do live presentations with the animals?
Pre-COVID, there used to be 3 live animal presentations on site at the museum daily. Right now, we're not currently allowed to do presentations as part of the COVID regulations in the city. So we're actually doing a virtual show. It's MOS at home. So every Thursday, although I think it might be switching to Fridays, we're doing a virtual live animal presentation from the museum that everyone can watch at home.
So I read that the Museum of Science Boston is an AZA accredited institution. What is the AZA?
Sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it?
I mean, it sounds kind of like dangerous.
I assure you it's not.
Oh, okay.
AZA is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums.
Okay, that's a lot more boring than I thought.
Yeah, but it is prestigious. So a lot of the top, highest zoos in the country have this AZA accreditation. So it means we have to follow all the same strict standards, policies, practices as all these bigger zoos. Going along with the accreditation, we get an on-site inspection, which is pretty intimidating, every 5 years. And we actually just had ours last year, luckily.
Phew! I worked in a restaurant for 5 years, and let me just say, if it's anything like the health inspections, man the forts. So, the animals that are here at the center, how are they brought in? Are they wild?
That's a good question. Most of the animals are from other zoos. Since we have that AZA accreditation, we can actually do networking and talk to other zoos. They have something called an exchange. So you can actually look for animals that you might be trying to acquire, or you can put animals on that you want to place out of your institution. We have some animals that are rehabilitated animals. So they had an injury at some point, they were orphaned, kind of like that gray squirrel I was describing to you earlier. Hand-raised her because she was orphaned and too young to take care of herself. Those are the main ways we get animals. We typically don't just pluck them out of the wild. And then we do occasionally adopt from shelters. So some of the domestics, domestic ferrets and rats, we will often adopt from shelters.
Okay. What are some reasons why you would decide to ship a certain animal to a different institution?
Sometimes just if you have a surplus. If you breed animals and you don't necessarily need all of the babies, but they can potentially be useful elsewhere. To give you an example of that, we actually did have baby corn snakes hatch a couple months ago. So we have 4 babies. They're fine right now, but that's probably more snakes than we need of that species moving forward.
How little is a baby snake? Like
a baby
worm?
corn snake is, probably 6 inches when they first hatched. Probably now they're closer to like 8 or 9. So they're pretty tiny, very skinny.
Well. So that makes me believe that you have animals that are born here. Specifically, do you have animals that breed here?
We do. Typically with breeding that we've done, you have to prepare for it because, again, you can't just make baby animals because they are cute. You do have to have a place for them to go in the future. So actually some of the successful breedings that we've had are lesser Madagascar hedgehog tenrex. I know that's a mouthful. They're small, spiky animals that kind of resemble hedgehogs. We've had pretty good success breeding them.
I love hedgehogs.
Also, screaming hairy armadillos.
Screaming?
Yes.
Screaming hairy armadillos.
It sounds like a joke. Believe me,
Those
that's
are
what
2
they're called.
adjectives so you can, screaming hairy coleslaw. So wait, these screaming armadillos had babies.
They did have a baby, yes.
One
Actually,
baby.
a 4th of July baby. They typically, as a species, have 2 babies, but I don't know. They had 1, so we'll take it because it's a pretty adorable baby.
Armadillos have shells, correct?
They do have hard, bony plates covering their bodies, yes.
Does the baby have that?
Mm-hmm.
That must have hurt coming out.
It's covered with some fluid when they come out, if you want to get really graphic. And then it does harden pretty soon after they're out.
Wow. You learn something every day. Who is the oldest animal in this tribe at the museum?
So the absolute oldest animal we have is an eastern box turtle who is 43 years old, which is pretty impressive.
Wow.
The oldest mammal that we have is a North American porcupine. His name is Cooper, and he is 32 years old. He is the oldest known porcupine, and to even brag a little more about him, he is the oldest known rodent in the world.
What the? Oh my goodness!
Mm-hmm.
So, I used to do shows at the planetarium. I don't know if you know that. And one of the regular guests that I had, whose name is Violencia, every time I mention the planetarium, she goes, "They have the oldest porcupine in the world."
Oh, so I guess
it's
you already
funny
knew
said
that.
I love monkeys. What kind of monkeys are here?
So we have 1 species, and actually at the moment only 1 individual, unfortunately. It is a cotton-top tamarin. So they are small marmosets native to Colombia in tropical rainforest habitats. Our male that we have did unfortunately lose his mate, his female companion. Yeah, just under a year ago. And then when COVID happened, it was really hard. We have a monkey waiting for him. We need to get her here. So hopefully we do have a road trip planned. We are going to collect his companion in early October.
When they first interact, is it similar to like introducing new cats to each other? Are they territorial?
So they're a very social species. I know you had asked about social animals before. So the introduction will be relatively gradual. We'll let them kind of see each other at first, but it usually is easier than introducing cats. I haven't introduced that many cats myself, but I know that can often be a challenge. So it should be easier than that.
How has the COVID pandemic affected the animals?
So I guess the biggest effect was when we were closed for several months. So pretty much no one was coming into the building. Obviously animal care staff, we were coming in. So the animals went from seeing visitors multiple times a week to not really seeing anybody other than their keepers. So some say maybe they enjoyed the break, but it was something different for them to not see people every day.
I would imagine that they did enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed to adjust just fine.
Are most of the animals here social, or do they like to be alone, like with their own kind?
It varies. A lot of animals are pretty solitary. It seems a lot of times people want animals to have friends. Sometimes they don't want friends, but they are social with us, with people, with their keepers, because it's what they're used to. They're here to be educational ambassador animals, so they're here to teach people and to see people.
That's lovely. What types of safety protocols have been put in place to make sure that the animals are safe?
That's a great question. We are really trying to limit who comes into the live animal care center, which is sad for a lot of people who used to potentially be regular visitors to be told they can't really come in now. So we're trying to limit the number of people that are in this space at any time. Also masks. We're wearing masks to protect the animals as much as we're wearing them to protect other people. So if I'm alone in the live animal care center, I'm still wearing a mask to protect the animals.
Question. Can animals contract the COVID-19?
There have been some animals that they have found have contracted it. I think the early case that I remember was actually, I believe it was tigers at a zoo that got it from a keeper. And they, recovered. They were okay.
What are your thoughts on the show Tiger King? I just need to know from someone in your position, what is your perspective on that psychotic person?
So he's definitely psychotic. I'll agree with you on that. I did enjoy the series just for entertainment value. But yes, I like to think we are a lot better as an institution than any place you saw on Tiger King.
Have you ever interacted with any big cats?
I've done a couple behind the scenes at other zoos, but it's all protected contact, so that means you're not in an enclosure with the tiger like you saw a lot in Tiger King. So, you might be a couple feet away from a tiger, but it's behind a fence, but it's still pretty cool.
Oh my goodness. When cats get excited and their tail twitches really fast? Me and my boyfriend call that the rattlesnake tail.
Oh, I like that. I'll remember that.
And let me just point out, too, if I'm ever put near a tarantula, you might see me pass away on camera.
Yes, we got that alert to make sure you did not encounter a tarantula. And we respect that.
Oh, my goodness. Speaking of which, I heard a little rumor that I might be able to meet some of these animals in person.
I think we could arrange that.
Well, I'll take your word for it. Hi, Coleslaw here. I'm here with Liz and two other members from the Live Animal Care Center at the Museum of Science.
I'm Corey. I'm the invertebrate keeper here. And I'm Krista. I'm the aquarist.
This is our first animal that you're going to show to me. Can you explain what this animal is?
So this is Noonie, our North American porcupine. Noonie, come.
So what part of the world is this creature from?
So North American porcupines are from North America.
So if you see up close, most of the spikes are on the back.
Exactly. So that way she can kind of turn around. Look at you with all your observations.
Oh my God.
Number one scientist over here. Doing great. So like I said before, porcupines live to be about 20 to 25 in the wild. In captivity, they do live a little bit longer. We are actually home to the world's oldest porcupine, Cooper, who is 32. And so hopefully Noonie will be following right behind him and will even, live longer than that.
And they're herbivores.
They are herbivores. That's perfect, nailing it. So Noonie, like we attempted to do here a little bit, and we saw a little bit of, does get training almost every day. So she knows how to target, where she takes her nose and she touches it to a target. She usually climbs. Today she did not feel like doing it, and that's something that we don't force our animals to do. So Noonie didn't feel like climbing, so she's not climbing.
She's a diva.
She's gonna hang out here on our little mat.
All right, we are back now with our second guest. Who do we have here?
This is our barn owl, Poe.
Wow, Poe's so magical looking.
So barn owls are actually the most widespread of all the owl species. You can find them on all the continents except for Antarctica. So they are technically native to Massachusetts. Barn owls and owls in general tend to be nocturnal or active mostly at nighttime. And to tell you the truth, a lot of people were pretty afraid of barn owls, and they had a lot of bad things associated with them, which might seem surprising because she looks so cute sitting here right now. But if you think of it being really late at night, really dark, they like to roost in abandoned barns, abandoned churches, abandoned buildings. So if it's really dark and suddenly this bright white animal comes flying out, it is easy to see why people could be potentially scared of them.
And they have pellets, right? Or what is that?
Yeah, so they do, when they're eating an animal, they eat the entire animal because they don't have forks and knives. They can't cut around. Oops, she's fully functional. So she will eat an entire animal, in her case, an entire mouse. And then they actually cannot digest everything. So lots of fur, bones, things their bodies cannot digest, they have to then get rid of. And they do that by regurgitating or coughing up an owl pellet.
Oh my goodness.
Right? It's good tussling.
It feels like an angel. So we're still here, we're still looking at animals. I'm curious to see what they have for me next.
This is our Dumeral's ground boa constrictor. They are native to Madagascar. Have you heard of boas before?
Yes.
Guessing most people have probably heard the term boa
Constrictor.
before. Exactly. So it's a whole family of snakes. There are lots of different kinds of boas. This is a pretty medium-sized boa. I know he looks pretty impressive, but there are some boa species that get larger than this. He's probably full size, going to top off towards 6 feet in length.
Wow.
That might seem daunting, but he's probably already close to 5, if not slightly over 5. Now, you mentioned the constrict. A lot of times people get nervous and they're like, is he constricting your hand? He's just holding on.
Yeah.
Constriction is to kill prey. If you look at his head, prey is 2 to 3 times the size of the head. So I'm bigger than that.
Yes.
So, but I'm sorry, did you have a question?
The snake looks shiny, almost like wet. Is that a thing? I never knew that snakes look like that.
It's definitely a thing that people often think snakes are slimy. I hear that all the time. Their scales are made of keratin. It's the same material that makes up your fingernails, your hair. So that's why it looks so shiny, especially under the lights.
It's
but
so
you'll notice,
pretty.
he's not leaving slime behind.
Nice to meet you, snake. So what's in this little box?
So our next animal who is currently hiding is a screaming hairy armadillo. Now, that's kind of a complicated, almost silly name. Let's break it down a little bit. Armadillo literally means little armored one, and they are covered in bony plates that do serve as protection to help them. Now, the hairy part, they are covered in hair, being a mammal, but I guess they're a little hairier than some of the other kinds of armadillos, hence the hairy part of their name. Now, the screaming part. They do scream when they feel threatened. It is a very loud, shrill, kind of surprising noise. Sounds almost like a screaming toddler, squealing pig, I've heard people compare it to. And the idea is it will startle a predator into hopefully dropping them and they have a chance to get away. So even though they have the nice shell as protection, they do still scream as well. They also burrow quite a bit, so they are known to go underground and dig rather quickly.
So when it's threatened, does it just curl up into a ball?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, probably the first thing they'll try to do is get away.
Yeah.
Is to run, dig, go underground. If then something comes closer to them, they will try to tuck their bodies up and protect themselves.
2 observations. This little guy is very hairy. And I know you said that, but I just want to reiterate. Because you wouldn't know this if you were just standing far away, but you come up close and it's like, hello. Observation number 2, this little guy's underside is the color of a cantaloupe, and I find that fascinating.
Those are great observations.
Thank y'all. Wow. What a fantastic moment we just had with these animals here. I want to say thank you to Krista, Corey, and Liz from the Live Animal Care Center at the Museum of Science. Thank you so much for taking the time out to show me these beautiful creatures. We appreciate it so much. It's so good to learn about nature and science. Oh my God, hands on. Thank you, Museum of Science Boston. I love you. Mwah. Signing off, this is Coleslaw.
I hope everyone was paying attention while we met all of those animals. You're gonna be tested on it later. Aha, pop quiz. Ooh. Oh my goodness, I had such a fun time at the Museum of Science. This is the first gig that I've done post-COVID, actually live in person at the museum, and it was so nice to be back. However strange, you know, with the social distancing and the masks and all that business. Regardless, I'm so thankful to the museum for having me back, and if you want to see more programming like this, make sure you hit them up and tell them you love Coleslaw's Corner. It means so much to me, as well as the Museum of Science Boston. Oh my goodness. I hope everyone stays safe. Have a happy Halloween. Oh, it's creeping up. Oh yeah. Don't blink, it's gonna be here. I'm a pumpkin right now. Do you see? That's why I'm orange. Please follow my Instagram at Coleslaw in the Corner if you'd like to see what I've been up to and what I have coming up. We'll be back hanging out with you soon, I promise. Stay safe, everyone. Wear a mask. Be nice to each other. And make sure you treat yourself every day. You're beautiful. You're sexy. You're gorgeous. Mwah! I love you. I love you. Be nice to animals.